I have a question for you today, and it's probably not something that you've given a lot of thought to. But what would you do if the United States government decided it's time to confiscate all the gold? What? Confiscate all the gold? There's no way that could happen. That's why you don't think about it. Yes, it can happen, and it did happen. 1933, Executive Order 6102, signed into law passed by FDR during a time that we probably weren't around. 1933, confiscated all the gold. Can it happen again? Highly unlikely, but what I'd like to do is go through some scenarios where these scenarios sound awfully familiar with what's happening in the economy today. And the other thing that's got me thinking about this is the amount of marketing and activity to get people to buy gold and put gold into their IRA, which I think is crazy. But gold seems to be the solution to all the problems. And it can happen. You can have your gold confiscated. Unlikely to happen, but let's go through some scenarios that even if I didn't start the video by saying that the government can do this, let's just list each one of these things, and whether or not you're nodding your head in agreement or commenting that I'm a complete fearmonger, doesn't matter. I want you to think about these things because most people don't think about government overreach until it's too late. So here are some examples. I think I've listed 5 different examples where in the economy there could be the opportunity for the United States government to reach in and restrict your ownership or purchase of gold. Number 1, a severe financial crisis or hyperinflation. Man, I'll tell you what, if you are an economic, I don't want to say economic ninja because that's another YouTube station, I don't want to get them in trouble. But if you're somebody like me who pays attention to what's happening in the macroeconomic space, there could be, very likely, a severe financial crisis right on the horizon. Think 2008. Hyperinflation. That's another thing that the economic press is talking a lot about, which would, in essence, devalue the dollar. And I know this doesn't make a lot of sense, but stay with me. If the United States decides to devalue the dollar, that'll increase the opportunity to pay down the debt because, in essence, you're buying down the debt with cheaper dollars. I know that's hard to understand, but that's one of the reasons why our debt is completely out of control, that the Treasury or the government could decide to devalue the dollar. So keep an eye on that. These 5 things I'm going to list, I want you to just keep an eye on them. I'm not scaring you and telling you that Uncle Sam is going to reach into your drawer one night and pull all the gold out or go into your bank vault and steal it, although it has been done. As I said, look up Executive Order 6102 in 1933. But these are things that you need to pay attention to if you're considering buying gold as the solution to the problems that we have right now. The second one is war or national emergency. Well, if you're anything like me and you pay attention to Bible prophecy, Matthew 24, wars and rumors of wars, man, you cannot turn on the television without some type of war or rumor of war being declared. National emergency? Heck, man, we're hitting national emergencies left and right. Whatever the president decides is a national emergency becomes a national emergency. Do you remember 2020? That's the second thing to pay attention to. Because during wartime or national emergencies, the president has the power to nationalize resources. Water, transportation, anything that would be needed during wartime or a national emergency. Gold, while in 1974 President Ford brought it back to a legal ownership, you could buy gold, it was not listed under this war or national emergency whether or not it was a specific resource. Gold is considered a strategic resource, and in I think it's 13603. There's an executive order that President Obama put in 2012. Strategic resources are open to confiscation. Gold was not listed because in 1974 it was legal to own gold. So to get around that, in 2012, 13603 says strategic resource, open to interpretation if gold is. I think it is. Number 3. Here's something that President Trump has said he will never let happen, and I believe him, which is a CBDC. And I think here in the state of Florida, Governor DeSantis has already claimed we will not be sponsoring or having a CBDC in this state. But that is another way where the government can control the monetary policy in the United States, confiscate gold as a competitor to CBDCs. Don't see that happening, but pay attention to the continued discussion about CBDCs and their development, because yes, in the United States we're still toying around with whether or not it makes sense. I don't believe it's going to happen in the next few years, but pay attention to what's happening in the rest of the world. There's a lot of movement towards CBDCs. The fourth one, this one just happened this week or the past week. A crisis in the, how did I put it? U.S. debt crisis and loss of confidence in U.S. treasuries. Now, you may not even pay attention to treasury auctions. They're boring, but they're like any other auction, whether it's a car, a home, an estate sale. The item that's being auctioned off will be sold depending on its demand and its price. So if its demand is low, then the price will drop. Well, guess what? In the last treasury auction was very low in demand. U.S. treasuries, even foreign buyers are right now shying away from loading up on a lot of U.S. treasuries, because just recently we've had a third downgrade of our financial status. That's a big deal, right? So that's what's making some of these foreign institutions and governments less likely to continue to purchase our debt, which means that we have to raise the rate of the coupon, which increases the yield. The price goes down, the yield goes up, to make it more attractive, which means that that debt that we sell, 10, 20, 30-year debt that has a higher coupon, can't be refinanced, if you know what I mean. If it's 6%, are we ever going to get back to a 2% treasury? I don't know. But if we do, we'll have the opportunity to refinance it. But I don't see that happening. So that's number 4. Number 5, and we've seen this in past administrations, and you know, in my lifetime, I always thought Congress was responsible, the Senate, Congress, as a political body, to make rules, to make laws, to pass laws. What I've seen, and it disturbs me, and I'm sure it disturbs you as well, is the amount of executive orders that have been signed over the past 12 to 16 years, just putting things into de facto law. They don't have the weight of law. They're executive orders. They have not been through Congress. They have not been signed into law by the president. They're orders that can be undone, as we've seen between the last administration and this administration. And depending on which way we go in the next administration, any executive order done now can be quickly undone, or it can be continued. But executive overreach, I think, is something that in 1933, a lot of people thought that FDR, even though I think he served 3 terms, he was not a capitalist. As a matter of fact, he didn't enjoy the fact that private industry had control, as much control as they did, over the monetary system. So that's one of the reasons he put that restriction on gold ownership, because he wanted to, his administration wanted to have more control of what's happening with the US dollar. So by vacuuming out the gold owned by private people and institutions, he was able to then revalue the US dollar. And this probably means nothing to you, but I think it's fascinating that when he initiated 6102, he said that anybody that owns gold in very de minimis amounts had to sell it back to the government at $20 or $25 per ounce. Depending on what you bought that gold for, you may have made money or lost money, but regardless, once the gold was confiscated and brought back into the U.S. Treasury, he reset the price of gold to $34. So anybody that sold it back to the government for 20 or 25, then turned around and it was valued at 34. They couldn't purchase it again, but they didn't feel too good about that. So would it happen today? As I said, highly unlikely. How to protect yourself? Well, again, I talked about CBDCs. I'm not sure there's something that's going to happen anytime soon, but there's a lot of discussion about cryptocurrencies, and I know President Trump he's a very pro-cryptocurrency president, which leads me and gives me good faith, because I think that he understands that cryptocurrencies cannot be regulated. So if you have the appetite, or you want to investigate cryptocurrencies, and if that's a safe haven for your assets, that's one way right now that is out of reach from the regulations of any executive order or any law, as a matter of fact. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not an attorney. I just play one on TV. The second one is if you're going to buy gold and you really want to buy gold, look into offshore storage. I know it's probably something you haven't given any thought to. It didn't even ring on my radar until just recently. But if it's offshore and any of these things happen and the government decides to try to confiscate gold again, if it's offshore, it's it's out of their reach. So that's another option. I don't know whether that's safer than just sticking it in your backyard. I don't know. But the third one is land. Land, I think right now is an undervalued asset for a lot of people. I just, number one, if you can find land that you can farm and you can turn into a private resource for you and your own family when quote unquote Armageddon comes, then you're more self-sufficient. There has been precedents, obviously, eminent domain, where the government can take over land. But right now, that is something that I think is less likely to be appropriated in a time of national emergency, unless the land was valuable for other things. But if it's, a little plot of land, 6-7 acres, someplace in the woods nobody knows about, and you're farming it and you're raising chickens and cattle and whatever you're doing, highly unlikely the government will come after that. Of course, worse things have happened, stranger things have happened. But think of those options right now. Likelihood of the government coming in and confiscating gold, very low. But the signs for some other administration, if we get down the road and things become worse and worse, which the signs are pointing, they just might do that. Even though I have 100% faith in this country to pull ourselves out of this, hey, you got to always take a look at what your options are. Right now, status quo, but be on guard. Pay attention to these 5 things I just outlined because they're all happening at once. Number one, severe financial crisis, think 2008, think bank runs, or hyperinflation. Second one is war or national emergency, always talking about that. The onset of CBDCs, the digital currencies, I don't think that's something that we have to worry about immediately. But this one, I think, is the one that really scares me, is the debt crisis and the loss of appetite for the U.S. Treasury. If people are not buying our debt, we cannot finance our government. And it doesn't matter how much you like the current administration or dislike it. Elon Musk left the administration a little unhappy because he didn't see what he thought he would see, which is a reduction in spending. What we're seeing is not only a continuation of the current spending, but it's going to be ratcheted up over the next 3 to 4 years. So that's just going to add to the debt. And the only way we can finance our deficit, and the difference between a deficit and a debt, if you're running your house and you're spending $10,000 a month, but you only bring in $8,000 a month, you're running a $2,000 a month deficit. And to fill that $2,000 a month deficit, most households will borrow money. The United States government is no different. We're borrowing money by selling treasuries. And if people are looking at our treasuries as less than appealing, we have to raise the rate to make them buy. The cycle continues. So that's the one that's got me the most worried. Will that lead to gold confiscation? I don't know. I doubt it. And then the other one, which we've seen and it continues on, is just executive overreach, where presidents are coming in, and I don't care who the president is, all of a sudden they're acting like kings. And it's not the way this country was founded. There are 3 branches, they have checks on each other. But right now, it just doesn't seem like we are running the country the way it was designed, and the chaos that's ensuing, where the judges and judicial branch are now telling the president what he can and cannot do, and Congress is being cut out of every conversation. I don't know. I thought it was going to be better. I'm hoping it gets better. I'm an optimist. I know you are too. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I didn't mean to, this is not a scare tactic. This is just something Popsy Guy was thinking about. I told you in earlier videos, I like macroeconomics. I like to pay attention to what's happening in the world. And when I wrote this report, or when I did the research for this report, and those five things came up that are possible events to have a 1933 style confiscation of gold, I started thinking about it. Just want to let you know that those things are on the horizon. Your gold is not going to be confiscated, I don't believe. unless things get, in these 5 areas, get so bad there's no other option. So protect yourself, look at digital currencies, look at offshore gold storage if it's possible, and land. If you're looking for a place to put money, I'll tell you what, they don't make land anymore. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with Popsy Guy. I'd really appreciate it if you like, you subscribe, put some comments down there. As I always say, if you think Popsy Guy is out to lunch and has no idea what he's talking about, please let me know. Sometimes I live in a vacuum of ideas, and I do a little research, and all of a sudden I come out here, I get on the beach, and I just let it go. By the way, the beach is so crowded right now. It's like Yogi said, it's so crowded nobody goes there anymore. Hope to do another couple of videos at the beach because I really enjoy that. Regardless, you guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.